to be here in Stony
Point.
I'm so excited to be here in Stony Point, and to be in Topanga, which is actually my first time in Topanga since the fires.
Wow.
So this is like all the things, and my first time climbing outside.
So many firsts. So excited.
Yay!
I'm super stoked to be here too. Love the one episode that's out so far, but I know you've done a few others, so I'm super excited and really honored to be here with you today.
So when we met, it's actually like, the story's so funny because I'm pretty sure we pitched your brand like 2 years ago. And
you did?
I think we did, because when I met you again, not realizing it was the same brand, I was like, who messaged Hedy already? And I was like, that was us. Back when we were just going out and being like, hey, we exist. Photography.
Whoa. I didn't know that. Were you holding this piece of information?
We literally
share all this.
It's so funny because I'm like, I don't do that anymore, because I'm like, we found other ways to like connect with people. But that first year, we were just like, do you need a photographer? Do you need a photographer? To like any brand that looked interesting. And so when we came back full circle, I was like, look at this full circle moment.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so grateful that we were able to really connect this time around. I think timing, there's always a reason for that. So it was so cool to be at that event with you. And it was my first time actually partnering with Chef Wendy and Chef Christina on a Mogu Magu. And it actually jump-started, I think, my curiosity for ways that we could more meaningfully gather.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a pivotal, like, event for me. So I'm really happy we got to meet.
Yay! I love that. And when I followed you, I saw that you climbed. And immediately I was like, we're doing a Cook Til Done episode and we're going outside. And
Woo! We did it!
Literally, I like texted Wendy and I was like, can you give me Heidi's number? Because like, can you like, and she was like, literally no response, just gives you the number. And I was like, hey, it's me again. And I'm so excited we're here because, and I know we're going to dive into it, but I immediately saw the thread between being a founder, climbing, just doing anything outside of our business as a founder is like miracles. Like, it could have been rollerblading. I would have been like, you do other things besides build your company. And I was so like impressed by that. And I was like, this needs to be, like, I hate the word normalize. I feel like we really beat that one out. But like, it needs to be seen that you can have a full life, and that being a founder doesn't mean, even though sometimes sacrifices are made, and I think those times happen, but it's nice to see a whole person, because, and what I've experienced in my founder journey is that it creates resilience, because when my emotions are tied to the ups and downs, or even if it's just internal ups and downs, maybe everything's going fine. But day by day, I'm thinking, am I failing? Am I doing it? Am I not doing it? It's nice that it's not all on this. Like, almost having like one friend. You're like, you need more friends. That's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that climbing, so it's interesting. I actually found climbing after I started my business. So started the business about 4 years ago, and with my childhood friend Ashley, and then I found climbing 1 year after that, and I've been doing both ever since. I feel after I was when I was a kid, I was in sports, and after doing gymnastics for 7 years, getting injured, finding something really niche in high school. Have you heard of color guard?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was in color guard for 4 years, and wait, did you do that stuff?
I was in marching band.
Oh, I love marching band.
All my friends
so
were
tight.
in color guard.
Yeah, so tight.
All my friends. And it was like the most progressive space for young girls. And I always thought, why does color guard have to end? Like, why can't we just keep it going? Dancers can keep going. Let's bring the flags. I don't get it. I think about that more often than I'd care to admit. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, like some people, I know people who ended up doing it until, I think You can do it until you're 25. And then
Yeah.
there's something called aging out
Yeah.
of color guard. But yeah, I did it for 4 years, and then I like went to college and like gymmed. I hated that.
Yeah.
I hated going to the gym. I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, I just like went to the gym to go. And then finally coming back to climbing, like being introduced to that and really loving the movement. I think it was like a moment of like coming back to myself and the love of that. And it's helped me to stay really balanced in my business, and it's taught me a lot of things. I think having done sports growing up, I think I did have discipline, I did have grit, and I think a level of just like determination.
Yeah.
But I think now as an adult, being able to kind of see the also unhealthy patterns that are pervasive in sports as a young person has helped me really use this sport as a way to, I guess, like improve myself, improve my relationship with others. I also never really had, I think, a relationship with nature until I started climbing outside. I had to be dragged out by a friend to go outdoor climbing. They were like, oh, you love indoor climbing, like you should come out with us. And I was like, no, I'm good. I don't really do that outdoor stuff. Like I'd go on like a hike.
Yeah.
But then I would like go home.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like I wouldn't like really stay outside often.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm like, go there, come back. But I think climbing has changed so much for me. And I think we had talked about this too, just made me more resilient in my business too.
I love that you said that, because even how you navigated the space here, I was like, she'd be outside. She'd be outside. And it's like, it took me so long to really appreciate nature because I didn't feel safe, you know, in so many ways. Like even being in Atlanta, like nature is often in conservative areas, which I'm terrified of getting pulled over. I'm terrified of being like micromanaged by people who insert themselves into our lives, which is basically the same thing as being pulled over. It's kind of like the same outcome. And so I let that stop me from really going outside or even building a connection to nature. And because I'm like, am I that afraid of bugs? Not really. Like, am I that afraid of getting dirty? Like, also not really. And when I started hiking like in the West Coast, that really changed a lot for me. And when I got into climbing a little bit just before I left, I was like, this is awesome. Because to your point, the gym culture wasn't it. Not only is the movement really repetitive and uninspiring, which I never had language for, and I'm like, yes, I would be bored, and that's why you have to have the best playlist, because you have to not think about what you're doing. But climbing felt communal. People would watch you climb and help you climb versus, you know, maybe the powerlifting community is like this, but most people don't watch you lift and help you and cheer you on, especially when you're going in it on your own. And I think that community aspect to movement, period, is essential for it to be fun. Yeah. Because otherwise you're really just out here doing something random and hard, and it's tough to keep going and to like get out of your own head. And I think community helps you do that because it keeps you connected to something else besides the fact that I suck at this right now, or like I'm not as good as that person who's somehow climbing upside down on a wall and I don't understand how gravity isn't kicked in. Like, but they would hop down and they'd be like, so glad you're here. And you're like, really? Like, I was like, I like this. Like, yeah. I like it when people are like, I've been climbing for 40 years. Like, love to see someone on their first day. That's rare. That's what I love to see. And, you know, as like, for me as an entrepreneur, I feel like that's the kind of entrepreneur I am. Like, anytime someone even thinks about it, I'm like, really? Oh my God. Like, how cool. Even though I know what's coming.
Yeah, I feel like with climbing too, I've been having these conversations with my friends about why we climb and who we climb for. Because there's also, I think, this performance aspect of like sport, of running your business, of like being a person in the world. Like there's always that performance aspect, or could be, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times, like, I've also heard friends and had my own thoughts too of being like, God, I suck at this. Like, why do I even put in the time? Or I've also like climbed with people who are really strong and I'll feel really shy or feel worried about messing up and falling. So I'll just kind of do the safe thing, or I like can tell sometimes when I watch my own footage, if I am in a weird headspace, like I can see it in my movement. And so it's kind of this idea of like, okay, the nerves and all of that, like why are you actually climbing?
Yeah.
Are you climbing because this movement is helpful for you and like nourishing, or is it to look cool? Because I do think that's also like a reason why kids get into stuff. Like, I don't know if you've ever gotten into like an activity or even like an instrument because you were like, whoa, I saw that person like shredding on the guitar and that's so cool and I want to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So there's like this piece of like, I want to be cool too, like that person. And with climbing, I think that's similar. When you were speaking about like indoor gym culture, I'm sure you're familiar with the term boulder bro.
Yeah.
Right? It's like these ripped dudes who like take off their shirt and they're like, rah, rah, like muscling climbs. I don't know. I think it's cool that they're strong.
Yeah.
But I also think there's also could be a softer approach to climbing that's more like about just learning movement rather than like conquering the climb, right? It's not like I'm here to like conquer that boulder. It's like I'm here to learn from the boulder.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's missing here. And like climbing, like anything, is just an exercise in learning more about yourself.
Oh my God, that thread, bringing it back to business, is like, I'm not here to conquer this. And if that changes the whole objective, I'm here to learn from this. I'm here to see what this experience has to teach me and what I can learn about myself in the process. Now it's like there's no competition.
Yeah.
You know, I've had jobs like in tech startups where it was like, we're going to demolish the competition. We're going to dominate the market. And I just remember, and that was before any personal development came into my radar. And I was like, wow, really? Like, you can't just do well. Like, what if everyone did better, but you're still profitable? Would that be a fail? Like, what if you're 20% profit, everyone else is 50%? Wow. You gonna lay us all off? Because like, how is that a loss? You know, like, what if we just worried about ourselves and what we're trying to create? I should have known then that feeling was like super valid, like a real question. And I was like, well, we just have difference of values. And that's where this pressure is coming from, versus if it's like, what can we learn about this? What can we learn about this change in the industry that we're navigating? What can we learn about company culture? What can we learn about food and like how people nourish themselves and how people make these decisions? It's like everything from that point, operations, HR, like marketing, like product, everything would be different. Like things would get really slower because we would be really taking the time to listen. How we would be rewarded would be differently, because then it's not like, what did you do? Maybe it's, what did you learn? And that's how you get promoted. Maybe you learn the most interesting thing, you know, versus, well, I did this, I did this, I did this. It's like, what about learning? And then how do we take those learnings into this collective consciousness as a company and have that as IP? And how, you know, it's like companies that prioritize innovation. It's like, I hear that word and it's fancy, but it's just professional learning.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. I think the idea that, I think there's always more to explore, and it's not about just like knowing it all or knowing the most from somebody. I think the mindset is really important. And that's something too that I think like the through line with with business and with climbing too. No, we had talked about this, but climbing is, you're failing 99% of the time. Yeah. Like, I know that when I go to the gym, I'm not really progressing unless I'm falling. Yeah. All the time. And it's like from those mistakes and like realizing what you're doing, like an awareness of like, oh, I put my foot here and it slipped because of this. Like, if I do this differently, could I have a different outcome? Yeah. I think it's like having a hypothesis, trying it, failing, going back to the drawing board until you find something that works for you. And I think it's cool too because depending on, I think something that I love about climbing is that any singular problem can be climbed so many different ways.
Yeah.
And depending on the person,
How they
someone
approach
might,
it.
yeah, exactly. Like someone might do it really dynamically, or someone might do it very statically, meaning they're like very slow on the wall. I think everyone can find their way up the problem their way.
Yeah.
Like what I do works best for me because of like the history of movement in my body, and that might not work for someone else, and they'll do something different that works best for them.
The history
You know,
of
like-
movement in my body is a word right there. Like, I just have to sit and marinate on that. The history of movement in my body. You know? And like,
Yeah.
and how you make decisions because of that history. And even you teaching me how to press.
You did so well.
I was-
You were so
I was
awesome.
like, I could just put shit. Because I thought the whole thing was a grip. It was like,
Mhm.
and from the climbing bro culture too, they're always on
Oh,
this.
yeah. Mhm.
And then when you're like, I can push, I can like lean in, and to me it felt like an embrace. Felt like I was like embracing the boulder. And it gave me the best grip. And so I'm like, I don't have to have strong, swole pinkies. Like, I could just push. And even that just, like, opened up so much for me. Like, I love that, the history of movement in our bodies.
Yeah. Like,
And honoring that.
yeah. I truly feel that everyone is able to, I guess, like, with the climb, too, right? Like, I think it's all about utilizing your body in the way that is needed at the moment. And everyone has it in themselves. I think climbing is really cool. Like what I really love about bouldering instead of, say, sport climbing, I think it's really awesome as well. There's a whole group of people who only sport climb. So I'm going to put that out there. Not really me. I'm more of a boulder. What I like about it is there's nothing else there. Like there's no harness. There's no thinking about other factors. It's just like you and the rock. And I think I'm losing my train of thought.
I was wishing, I was like, there's nothing. Yeah, it's minimalistic.
Oh, yeah. So you're like kind of paring it down to the absolute most basic and primal thing, which is just like climbing this thing.
Yeah.
And like, depending on, like for you, right, like the pressing really helped you. I think like you had that in you to just like push and like use your feet. You were so good with your footwork as well. It was like so intentionally placed. Like everyone can, I really feel, do anything that they'd like to as long as they approach it with like a curiosity of like, oh, if I like press, I've never pressed before, let me try it. Like I love that you were like, okay, let me just try it. Yeah, like I'm curious to see how it feels. I think we can always like solve our problems and the world's problems
with curiosity.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think so too. I think curiosity is connection.
Mm-hmm.
It's constant learning. And it's how you can be this like genius like person without being full of yourself, because you know that there's so much to learn.
Yes.
You know, there's so much to be, you know, like when I was like younger in my 20s, I used to be accused of being like a know-it-all. It's so weird because I was like, I didn't feel like that.
Yeah.
Probably because I spent all my time trying to learn the next thing, and I felt like I was always surrounded by someone who knew a lot more than me about something, and that's all I wanted to talk about, their thing. And so I would listen to people talk to me, and they would tell me about this thing that I had never heard of or no clue, and that just lit me up. And so you end up learning a lot, of course, and then when you get to share that, it's like, oh, so you think you know everything, you got your fucking degree, and it's like, no, I just love to learn, and as soon as you teach me something, I'm all ears. Like, and I don't know, that makes life fun for me, and maybe that's what entrepreneurship is for me, is like this constant, you know, for better or worse, this constant, like, you get to learn always. And ultimately, that's when I'm happiest. When something works, it doesn't feel like a lottery win. It feels like, yeah, I knew that would work.
Yeah.
I knew because all the signs were there. I knew they were going to say yes because people who say yes never cancel. I knew and it's like how many experiments have you run? You're like, oh, that's not going to work because in experiments A through 200, like you've seen that, and it gives me a confidence. And so for me, the calm is not or the comfort really is not taking things for granted as much as it is the confidence of like, I've done this 1,000 times and I know what's going to happen because everything is a pattern. And I love that ground. So it feels very, very stable of like, it's been years, plural. It's been, I failed a million times. I'm still doing it. And I get to be confident about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. It sounds like it's like a comfort of self. You talked about like trusting yourself. And in everything that we do, I think as entrepreneurs too, it's like a lot of the times we're taking the path less traveled. So there might not be a blueprint there for you. I even remember too, there was like, I love that you're so intuitive and you trust yourself. Like I, in my life, have second guessed myself a lot, and I'm learning to be more confident in my gut feelings and intuition. But I think in the very beginning of our journey, we were shown blueprints for starting a business that looked like hockey stick growth.
Yeah.
Right? Like the first like 1 million, it's like, oh, you take like 3-4 years, and then all of a sudden you're like a $10 million company. They talk about how like you want to exit in 5 years, and like you have to raise capital, and you have to hire, and like you have to work 100 hours a week because that's what you have to do to like have the life that you want. And I think my business partner and I just like didn't feel right in our bodies. We were like, oh, this isn't really how we envisioned our business being. And I think finding meaning in being a smaller brand and like wanting to run it for as long as it feels good to us. Like we don't have a plan to sell it. So we're not like building the company to be sold. We're building the company to impact people.
Yeah.
And the sacrifice is that we're going to grow slow. Like Ashley and I only started paying ourselves like salaries this year.
Wow.
We, lived in a 1-bedroom apartment together. I slept on the floor next to all the boxes and the sesame seeds. And that was okay because I think there was this comfort of knowing that that was the path that I chose.
Yeah.
That I wanted.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't going to, I guess, choose to do this thing that everyone else is doing just because that's what everyone else is doing. So.
You know, something too that never gets talked about is the context and the preparation, right? It's like, when we go in, and especially in the sports world, you see somebody doing something and it looks so easy. And we're like, well, they can't even do that, right? And we forget the years that it took for them to make that one movement seem like easy, or for that years it took from the time they were 3 years old to now, to where muscle ups are warm ups to the routine. And it's like, people don't understand that when we hear stuff like, oh, this company was designed to be sold, and in 5 years it's going to be a $10 million company, this and this and that. The gag is that the groundwork that was laid for that is a network full of millionaires that have money set aside specifically for investing in these startups. It is oftentimes like dozens of companies later that they're able to spin something up so fast, or they've helped other people do it, that they know exactly what steps to take. They ran their experiments too. Yeah. And if they didn't, they have someone on who did run the experiments. So they know, here are the buttons, here are the levers, this is what we're going to push, and we're off. Versus when you're doing something for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, girl, you lucky I sold a jar. Like, what? I was not taught to do this, And that's a huge deal. Like, a baby's first step is a huge deal. I don't care if you're a professional track star. They went from having a fucked up spine, couldn't even hold up their neck, and now they're walking. Like, that distance is so far compared to an adult just picking up jogging. Like, that distance is like this.
Yeah.
And I think so much of business is like that, where I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm the soft, cartilage-filled infant that's like, celebrate every milestone, bitch. Because I could fall. Yes. Catch this moment now because it's the only step I'm taking today. You know, versus all these other things that really aren't a big milestone because the foundation is already there. And that's what they take for granted. That's what, you know, anytime that stuff is talked about in an article where you can't really dive that deep, they don't talk about that. They don't explain that context that's really, really there. And it's beautiful. And like, I know the third or fourth time I spin up a company, it's going to go way faster.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
obviously, you know, but I can't compare myself to someone who is at a different stage and say like, man, I'm not doing it like that. Like, it would be so weird if I was.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, same thing too. It's like there are these companies that have, you know, valuation, have investors, and they're spending so much money doing these like promotional things like ads or free gifting. And it would be crazy for a small brand to be like, oh, we should do all those things too, even if their cost structure is different. Like they, you know, only have what they had in their savings that they invested in the company. Like you just can't do the same things as a larger company can. But I think we can do it in a way that is sustainable. I think the thing for me was I felt like a failure because I wasn't trying to get to 10 million in 5 years. Because that's like what everyone wants. And I just questioned myself. I was like, am I cut out for this if I don't have that big goal in mind? Like, is it enough that I just want to have fun and create this thing that's meaningful for me? And I think now that I've like done this for 4 years, I can confidently say yes.
Yes.
I think being an entrepreneur is cool too. Like there are so many sacrifices. You work so much more than you do when you work for someone else than if you worked for someone else. But the time is yours. Like the fact that we can be here right now on a Thursday morning.
The fact that you think about it, like
I was like, what's this? Yeah, like we can come out here, do this, and like we'll probably all of us will go back home and work, do something else later today, but then you can go and take a trip somewhere else. Like I think having the freedom to choose where my time goes is so worth it. Even if I had to continue through the first 2 years of my business, like that was hard.
Yeah.
But I also didn't have anything to compare it to. I've never had like a high paying corporate job that I had to like
leave
compare.
Behind. Yeah.
Exactly. I wasn't like, oh shit, $100K paycheck versus $0. Like I didn't have to make that transition. So it was just like in a way much easier to just eat it, you know?
I think what's so interesting too about going slow is that you get to do it a little differently. You have so much space for innovation. When you're following someone else's path, you're not thinking about another. And by doing it this way, you get to carve out another path that you or anyone else could go down that same route, completely different, but just faster. And that's what I love about it. Like, I started to appreciate like collaborations and like making our own stuff, our own content, really because I wanted to meet founders. I wanted to do something other than pitch, even though I still pitch, but I'm like, I can't systematically pitch. And so I was like, what can we do that will support our brand and reputation and get us these connections? So we found Any Excuse to Film. Through that process, we were like, let's be a media company. Let's like not just be a service provider, but have a platform of our own. And how powerful would that be? I don't think we ever would have came to that route if we weren't forced to solve that problem.
Right. Totally.
And if we were just hiring and getting sales, I would have had the miserable agency that everyone talks about, where we just have 100K in overhead and 200K in clients, and if one falls off, then we're fucked. It's like, I didn't know that I didn't want that at the time. I was just doing it because it was the way, and I was like, okay, what do I really, like, how do I want my life to look like? How do I want to feel? Do I want to be busy? What do I want to be on my calendar? Like, how do I want it? Like, is this the only way to make 7 figures? Like, can I make 7 figures slow? can I have 7 figures and do it and have my time? And like, once you ask other questions, other answers start to pop up. And so I started to realize like, oh, this is another way. But if I was moving way faster, or if I had more investment, I would have blew past those opportunities, because going slow allows you to be way more intentional. And that's something that over time I've like grown to really appreciate.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the slowness can be seen as, God, why aren't we going fast enough? But I think I totally resonate with that. I think going slow just allows you to like smell the flowers, and also like just see what's around and be more aware and plan out, I think, your next move, or like think about other paths ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super fun.
I try to sell myself on the 5-year-old dream I have of just doing whatever I want.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a kid, you're like, adults, they can do whatever they want. And then as adults, you give your power. And so I'm like, fuck it, I can do whatever I want. Remember when I was a kid? And I thought this was the time. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that, because it's true. I can do whatever I want. But it's so easy to forget, because everything is a risk and a reward. And I'm like, no. Remember, this is the time that I do whatever I want. It is. It's not about other people's idea of success. It's about my life. And I remembered that before I could even construct a sentence, I envisioned doing what I wanted. And just being able to honor that and respect that, I think, is like the greatest promise we can keep to ourselves.
Oh my god. Yeah, I feel I'm now in my late 20s, and more my circle is like talking a lot about, oh, like I'm doing this for my inner child. I'm doing this to like get back to something. It's so fascinating that like, as we, I guess, get older and go into adulthood, there's this like idea that we leave behind. It's like, oh, to become an adult, you have to toss away your thoughts when you were a child. It's like, throw your dreams away because they're not real. You gotta grow up. And I think it's cool because like, that's the fucking lie. Like, I think the way to really appreciate the life that we have, if we have the privilege of doing so, is to, like you said, like honor that core thing that's inside of you. I think it looks different for everybody, but I think like our worlds would be so much happier, so much safer, so much more vibrant if people were just allowed to be themselves. So basic.
Yeah.
So basic.
So basic,
but
so essential.
Yeah, I feel like I just said like the most basic shit, but I think it's true. Like, come back to yourself. Yeah, like climbing also has allowed me to bring play back into my life. I definitely am a very like regimented person. Everyone asks me like, oh, what's your sign? I'm like, oh, I'm a Virgo. If you saw my calendar or like the way I worked, you'd be like, oh yeah, totally. Yeah. But I think I also forgot that like I bought into the idea that like to be an adult you have to be serious.
Yeah.
Serious about your stuff and like no play, like no fooling around.
Yeah.
And getting back into bouldering, I was like, oh, failing is fun.
Yeah.
Throwing myself at the wall and not getting it can be fun. And just being outside, like, I have accomplished nothing. Like, truly, like, in the grand scheme of humankind, like, me climbing a thing doesn't fucking matter. But there's still beauty in doing it, just, like, for the opportunity to be on this planet. And I think we don't have to have this idea of, like, oh, we have to make this huge, ginormous impact to, like, have made our lives worth living.
Yeah.
I think we should just enjoy it. And enjoy it with the people who we care about and like make connections. So I'm still serious. Like, like I care about my work, but I'm a lot less like, oh, I have to do well. Like, I have to get a certain result. Like, people have to see me this way. I used to be so serious about that. And now everything just feels really chill and calm and just feels good to like be, I suppose.
It's so the serious thing. You hit the nail on the head because I desperately wanted to be taken seriously in my
Yes.
20s. I also looked really young in my 20s. Like I looked like a child. And like objectively I did. And like people always were like shocked that I was like old enough to drink, and like so I was like
You'll be youthful forever.
you know, and I was it's like I don't know, like I think because I was so thin and and I was like bubbly, it was like you're obviously 17. And I'm like I'm 22, damn it. And I hated that about myself. And it's funny because I still act the same way. And I thought I would have to dial it back. And similarly went on a journey where I was like, for what? Like, it doesn't mean that I'm not great at what I do. It does. If anything, I realize there's a direct correlation with play and excellence for me. And I also realized how little I have to give off to be excellent, because that's the thing about when you've been working on things for so long. It's like you don't have to go 100%. You know, to deliver something that gives value to someone else. So even understanding like my range, it's like you're driving in a car, like you're gonna go 30 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour. It can go to 200, but are you gonna do that? No, you're not. It's like just understanding like capacity. And that was like a really big thing I was like, it's not about being serious. Like things are serious and so unserious at the same time. And what you're saying about it's enough to impact my own life, it's enough to impact just what's around me, I think that is huge impact. Because, you know, when I was in college, I took sex ed, and they did an experiment where they had one person with glitter on their hand, and we would all go around the room, we didn't know who it was, and we would shake each other's hand to see how fast things can transfer. And I was like, that's impact. And by the end of it, with like a few minutes, everybody had glitter on their hands, right?
Oh my God.
Right? And it was like, this is why you should glove up. Like, but I was like, that's a metaphor for everything. Because literally, like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's impact. It's like I'm aligned, right? Or even for a moment, I'm having a good day even for a moment. Every person and living being that I interact with is impacted by that. You know, down to the beetle that I didn't kill earlier today.
That you chose to
another day. You just go back to the fam. You know what I'm saying? Like, just all those choices that just, and that's just today. And that's just me, just with like just a couple people. Imagine with a little bit of influence. Imagine like, you know, we put out content and 100 people see it. Like when I think about 100 people, I think about 100 people.
Yeah,
physically.
if you saw them just standing there, you'd
like,
be like, holy shit, 100 people
watched my thing and had a thought about it and did something like that. To me, I'll always be so grateful for that. And so I think it is massive because of just how like a drop in the ocean works. It just travels so far. And I'll never underestimate that. And it's funny, like we watched White Lotus, and that dad was like panicked. He was like, what do you think happens after we die? And it's funny because like I didn't expect it to be a real deep moment, but he was like, you know, we're like droplets and we pop up out of the ocean and we go back in the ocean, and in the grand scheme of time, that's what it feels like. We're just bouncing up and we come back to the collective body of water. And that just, talk about lightening things up, but it's like, it's not a big deal, but also it is a big deal. It's also like, it's a both and, but just this idea that we're all connected and we know where we belong, and we're just here to learn a couple things and then bring it back to the group and say, this is the wisdom that we now collectively have.
Whoa. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, actually, like, this is crazy. Wow. Like that's, I have to remind myself of that when I'm creating. You know, I don't know if you read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, but she wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Gotcha.
And Big Magic, which is like, I think the better of the two, but something that she said was that ideas are their own spiritual entities, and they just are looking for someone to bring them into the physical world. So they go and they tap on her shoulders and they ask permission to come in, and she was like, you can say yes, you can say no, it's okay if you say no, but if you say no, they'll go on and ask someone else. And ever since I read that, I was like, oh my God. And I've personified ideas in a way of like, excuse me, please, I would like to be here now. And like, I just think of them as cute little, like, I don't know, really friendly, bubbly people that are just like, please, I would really like to be here. If you wouldn't mind, I would like to show up, especially the persistent ones, especially the big ones. And then you're like, okay, you can come in. And then you do the thing. And then it comes out into the world, and it feels like I'm ushering someone through by expressing ideas. So then it's like, oh, it's not even about me, because this idea wanted to be here, and so it's gonna come through, and here it is. And so it's sobering and humbling without making me feel small, because, and it takes the pressure off, because I'm like, oh, I'm not here to come up with stuff, like I'm just here to like help out, you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
that's so interesting. I mean, I feel like that's such a good analog too, with just like how ideas like come and go, kind of have this kind of ephemeral quality to them, yet have a permanence. I think is so similar to a human experience. Like, we're here for a brief moment, but what we do can impact our world, like climate change, all that stuff, like
forever.
Exactly, like for better or for worse, like permanence. And also like just all about mindset, like the whole thing about like death being something that happens to everybody at some point. You could see that as a motivation to like go and live your life as the fullest. The abundance mindset, right? There's so much to learn, there's so much to experience, so many people to connect with. Or there's like a holy shit, I'm gonna die. Like I don't know. I don't know what that would be like, but it's like, I think approaching it with fear would yield a different outcome for sure.
Oh yeah, and it's not to justify anyone's behavior, but especially with what's going on politically, I'm like, oh, you're scared, you're super scared, scared. It's just like, you know, people are like, oh, it's evil, and I'm like, it's just fear. It's just fear. It's just people who need community don't have it. People who want belonging can't find it. People who want to be loved, never seen it. That's what that looks like. And so, you know, like, I love business, I love like growth, I love all of that, but it's like when you're aligned, that is your purpose. You being aligned to the things that you do sets a trend and a precedent, and like creates so much good in the world, because we know what misalignment does and how it destroys. And I recently grappled with the idea that positive energy is so much more powerful than negative. We're taught the opposite. We're taught like we focus on negative. I'm like, just because we focus on it doesn't mean it has more power than the positive. And so thinking of it like that, of like, if that's what can be done with out of fear, imagine what can be done out of like love and alignment. So I just, maybe that's abundance mindset too. I'm like, if you look at the data, love is better.
Yeah, definitely. I think at the end of the day too, it is, how do you wish to see the world, right? It's like, that is how you should operate. If it is a life of abundance, of caring for your neighbor, then live that, I think. Because it is hard to, this idea that, I think Western society is like, show me the evidence, show me the proof. Like, stuff with Western medicine too. Wow, this podcast is going everywhere. But like, I also have like a history of, I guess this is coming back to the business too, of like creating Rooted Fair was my exercise in coming back to my heritage, because I had shunned it all my life without really knowing that I was doing it, and especially not knowing the reason. And I think that in kind of starting this business and, oh my gosh, why? In realizing the reason why I had shunned my culture, I realized that that was the same reason why I had never accepted Western medicine, even though my mom is, did I say Western? Eastern medicine. even though my mom is a traditional Chinese medical practitioner.
Whoa.
So my mom went to school when I was in high school. Like all the afternoons, like she was studying, putting in the time, learning how to care for people. And I rejected it completely. I was like, oh, cool, Mom. Like, it's cool that you're doing that, but I don't believe in any of that stuff. And it was odd. I hadn't really thought about it deeply, but I realized I just had this disbelief that Eastern philosophy or Eastern wisdom was real, because first of all, in our school system, we don't learn that. Like, Eastern stuff, like non-Western stuff is like inferior. Technology, Western civilization is peak. So of course that stuff doesn't have a place in the world. And it wasn't until I had my own health crisis that Western medicine couldn't cure me of for, I guess, a long time, that I was so desperate that I went to my mom and I was like, hey, Mom, I'm dealing with this. What do you think? Do you have a solution? And she whipped up a bunch of disgusting tasting herbs that I had to eat for like 90 days, twice a day. It was disgusting. But it ended up curing me.
Wow.
And so I think the curiosity after being disappointed by my current solutions like led me to having to open myself to this idea. Finally, I allowed this idea to come into, I guess, like my body, and it made all the difference. From there, I was like, okay, I've seen proof that it helps me, but in all the studies with TCM, you can't really see scientific evidence that it actually helps people. So it's like interesting, like the feeling, seeing that there is results, I guess, is different from scientifically being able to measure that there are results.
Even how we measure results, which is just assigning a story to the data, is biased and patriarchal, because it's like you're looking for something to be confirmed. We use science to justify all kinds of things that are nonsensical.
Yeah.
So when I understood that, I was like, oh, well, then it's not about just the facts. Like, everything is subjective. Everything can be interpreted, misinterpreted, and assigned a story. And just because I can't see it doesn't mean it's not to be seen, because what is my perception? And I think that's like what Eastern medicine and indigenous medicine like teaches us, which is that we only have this little scope right here. There's so many others at play, and we have to just trust. It's not even like hope and belief. It's like trust, which is way more grounded. And that's a really beautiful story. So, should we try some nut butter?